What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Beyond Ordinary podcast. We're going to be talking everything fitness, health, nutrition, all that good stuff. And I brought on the GOAT himself, Andrew Rose, aka Andy. How you doing today, man?
I'm fantastic. I've never been referred to as the GOAT, so that's I'm humbled.
Hey, anytime. You got 20 plus years of experience, man. Like, I mean, if you're not the GOAT, then I don't know who is. So let's just dive right in, man. So, like, who are you and what do you do?
So, as per the introduction, my name is Andy. Most people call me Andy. Rose by another name. Some people call me Andrew. Really depends on the formality of the scenario. I've been a trainer and a coach for 21 years now, since I was 20 years old. We're going on 22 years. So since I was a sophomore in college, I believe, is when I started. And it really, I fell into this career by accident. It wasn't what I went to school to do. Wasn't what I ever wanted to do. It was something I was good at the time. And I was fortunate enough to turn it into a career. I've owned a couple of gyms. I used to live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, owned a gym there for a while. Moved to Charleston, South Carolina, swore up and down I would never own another gym. Yet here we are. And I'm in the office of the second gym that I've owned. But it was really, you know, I reflect a lot about this because people assume that because I'm a competitive bodybuilder and a power lifter and a gym owner and a coach and a trainer and all that jazz that I'm just super passionate about fitness. And there's a rant here about passion, but I'm not going to go on it. I mean this with all the honesty I can muster. I was fortunate that I found something that I could pay my bills with. And it just so happened to turn into a career. The irony is, just within the last probably 6 or 7 months, I started the process to go to law school, something that I've wanted to do since I was 15. And I even applied to law school. I got admitted to law school in 2009, and I never went.
What made you want to make this giant pivot from fitness to law school?
I've always wanted to do it. I think back to, when I was 14, 15 years old. It's just something I was always interested in. From watching the TV the TV like dramas, like I'm going to date myself here, but like I grew up watching Matlock with my dad, shows like that. So, which obviously isn't truly realistic, but it's just something I was always interested in. And I had an opportunity to go in 2009 and I turned it down. I had actually sent in a tuition check. It was a school in Fullerton, California. At the time I was living in my hometown, which is Erie, Pennsylvania. So I send in this check. So somewhere between Pennsylvania and California, I called the school and said, cancel the check. I'm not coming. For whatever reason at the time, or whatever excuse I told myself at the time, it wasn't the right time. And then I never really thought about it again. So, from 2009 until say about, this past year, it's been training, coaching, owning gyms, having an online coaching business, and I've done well. It's been a blessing. I've been able to provide for myself, for my family, and I've lived a great life. But it's never been something that really fires me up. And it's been a hard thing to admit because it's what I've always done. I've done this for half my life. And I am at 42 years old going, this isn't what I want to do. And it's a very interesting juxtaposition because I'm really good at what I do, but I don't really love what I do.
So at what point did you realize? At what point did you realize that it wasn't like firing you up and you wanted to, I guess, make a pivot?
It's been well over a decade. So
Oh
I
wow.
moved to Charleston, South Carolina about 10 years ago. December will be 10 years. Um, so it was before that. Even when I owned my first, I owned a gym with several partners in Pittsburgh, and we had worked together for years at another gym. And again, we're talking, if I've lived here for 10 years, that was probably 5 years before that. So we're going 15 years ago. So take 15 years off your life and think about what you were doing and what you were thinking at the time. I really, at that point in time, I was like, I could do this for the rest of my life.
Hmm.
Um, but it was, as I've gotten older, um, there was just something nagging at me. Sometimes when you wear a shirt and you get a string that's like hanging off and you pull the
Hmm.
string and it unravels the whole shirt. I
Yeah.
pretty much, I've been ignoring that string for, the better part of 10 or 15 years since I applied to law school the first time. And, I finally pulled the string and it's come unraveled. And, I started the process pretty late. This past year or so, I missed a lot of the deadlines for application and stuff. So come September, I'm going to do it again. But all that being said, I'm sitting in an amazing gym. I've got great clients. I have amazing members and great community in this gym, and
Hmm.
it's a tough balance to be known as I'm the guy that owns the gym, or I'm that. If you scroll through my Instagram and we're talking about training and fitness and hormones and pretty much everything there is to do with being a dude, and there's just, I've done really well with that, with something that hasn't really lit me up. And I'm certain it's why I haven't taken it to goat level status,
Hmm.
like some people have. And I work with a coach for my marketing, and I work with, just like I work with coaches for bodybuilding or powerlifting and things like that. But, he's always busting my chops about, getting certain things done. But this been a while, and that's been a battle. Certainly, these last few years. Um, and more specifically, since I was like, I'm going to go to, when I told him, the coach that I work with for marketing, I was like, yeah, I'm going to go to law school. Like, I think his head spun around because he didn't see that one coming.
Yeah.
But it's really like I'm just, and I think this can speak to, I don't know what the demographic of your listeners is, like the age group or male, female, whatever. But
It's mainly male
we,
between probably like, I think it's like 25 to 40.
so there's we talk to the higher end of that, right? So the guys in their 30s and 40s. It's, I think there's quite a few of us that we've made decisions earlier in life because
Hmm.
we needed to get the job done. And some of us have been fortunate to have a career that's provided. And then when we lay our head down at night, it's like there's something kind of nagging at us that more needs to be done. And that's just, I just finally got frustrated to the point because I kept like denying this. I mean, I quite literally walked away from doing it back in 2009. Like,
Hmm.
I was on my way. I sent in my tuition deposit. I was like, nah, whatever excuse I told myself of why I couldn't go or why I shouldn't go. Maybe some of it was like, well, I've got a great job and things are going great. I don't need to do that and start
Yeah.
over. And I think a lot of us make those decisions as men. You make the decisions that everyone around you will benefit from, for the better. I mean, that's what we do, right? We provide and we protect. And,
Hmm.
if you're building a family, like, you're making decisions that are for the betterment of your own family. And a lot of times, at least with the guys that I have the privilege of working with, they don't give anything back to themselves. So this is one of
Hmm.
those moments where this is the stuff that I coach my clients with, right? This is the type of information that we talk about. And here I am in the midst of the same struggle of like, I need to be doing something more for myself. So it's been a very like, It definitely, it's the stuff that keeps me up at night at this point. Yeah.
Definitely. So I want to ask you about, you know, fitness, and I know you primarily focus on training men, particularly age 35 and up. Is there any particular reason why that is, your main target demographic as opposed to just, I guess, being a generalized trainer and training everybody?
Well, it's twofold. The first reason is, after doing this for as long as I've done it, I have trained everyone from, I think my youngest client I ever trained was 8.
Mm-hmm.
The oldest client I ever trained was 84. So I have trained everyone in between. So there was a point in my career where I had to train every client that came in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
And I would be training at 5 in the morning. I would still be training at 7 o'clock at night, and I did that for years and years, and it just kind of sucked the life out of me. I was good at it because
Mm-hmm.
it's really not. It's not a glamorous job. It's not a hard job, if we're being honest. It's fun. You get to spend your day in the gym. You get to work out whenever you want. It's and this is, I did this stuff before social media was a big thing, so, but that's part of it. And the other part was one of the best pieces of advice I got, and it's from the marketing coach that I work with. And he himself got his start in the fitness industry. And he honestly started, like, we pick a niche, right? Because we want to target a group of people that's going to make us money. And it's the interesting thing is that the niche that he picked was moms, right? And
Okay.
he's originally from Australia, and he was killing it, right? You market to moms or whatever, and it was sort of, he loved it, and it made him money, but it was missing something, and then he had this light bulb moment, and he started marketing to himself, and that's kind of where it comes in with me is,
What do you mean
the
by
best
market
people.
to himself?
So I don't market when I market on Instagram. I market to myself. And what I mean by that is I put out content that I would connect with. If I were scrolling the internet and I was looking at fitness content or whatever, I would come across my page and be like, wait, all right, this guy's trained, he's got tattoos, he's got a motorcycle in his gym, like he just seems like he likes to smoke cigars. And I just started being more of myself on my Instagram instead of trying to be a version that's market friendly. Like I don't
Mm-hmm.
polish my stuff. I just talk the way that I talk. And then when people actually interact with me, they're like, "Oh, we didn't expect that. We thought like," I was like, "No, that's just who I am. This is literally how I talk." So, in marketing to myself, so to speak, I'm 42. I can't
Mm-hmm.
train the way I used to train. My body doesn't recover the way it used to.
Mm-hmm.
There are some mornings I wake up and I don't want to put my feet on the floor because I know my entire body is going to hurt. So as soon as I open my eyes, I'm like, oh, this is going to hurt today. I was on a road trip this past weekend. Went from South Carolina to Erie, Pennsylvania and back, which is from here, it's a 12.5 hour trip. Just for 2 days to spend with my family. And it was, by the time I got there on Thursday night, like my hip was on fire, like my body was just wrecked. A few years back, I actually did that same trip on a motorcycle, and it didn't hurt that bad as it did driving a truck. So, you know, I market to the age group that I market because I relate to that age group. So,
Okay.
if I had, and I actually had a colleague of mine from years ago reached out to me on Instagram and said, "Hey, I need your help." She just happens to be a female. And I'm like, I don't train women, but I knew her for years.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, it was one of those things that I agreed to do it. But even as I agreed to do it, I was like, I'm doing it as a favor. I'm not doing it because I was like, yes, I'm super excited to do it.
Yeah.
I was honored that she trusted me enough to do it. to help her. But it was, I like when I jump for, when I do my check-in calls with my clients, like we talk about the regular, I'm a blue collar guy. I've got guys that are in construction and, build houses and, they're on the road all day long. I've had guys that are like, they're on oil rigs and, I just relate to those guys a little bit better. Because yes, I want to be, I want to be jacked and I want to look good and I want to like look good at the pool with my shirt off. Don't we all?
Hmm.
But I also like, again, I look forward to a glass of bourbon and a cigar, and having a little bit of balance. And it's just so happened that, um, I came across the right marketing coach at the right time, and he sort of pushed me in the right direction when it comes to that. So it's been fun, because the people that consume my content now, it's funny because if you talk to like, people think that because you're a fitness person and you post pictures without your shirt on and stuff like that, like there's all these chicks sliding in your DMs, which
Not the case.
it's actually the polar opposite.
I've heard
Now
that
it's
many
like
times.
it's like,
Yeah.
oh, no, it's the amount of DMs that I get from guys, just asking questions, just regular stuff. But the what I like about it, is I've created a community of dudes that they consume my content on a regular basis.
Hmm.
And they're always there. So even if they're not buying something from me at this moment, I'm putting a message out that resonates with a group of humans. Um, and it's for them, I think, and I've heard this personally, it's refreshing because I'm not like shoving a product down their throat or trying to sell them multiple tens of $1,000 programs and stuff like that. Like if you
Right.
want a coach, like I'm here, but I'm not going to force feed you. And it builds trust for sure.
Hmm. What's the most common question that the guys were asking?
You would think it's how do I how do I how do I fix my diet, or how do I train differently. The most common question has to do with hormones, because I talk
Really?
so much
Oh
about
wow.
it.
Hmm.
And it's less taboo than it used to be. It used to be guys didn't talk about this stuff. HRT or hormone replacement therapy wasn't really a big thing. Um, but now it's, and again, we're talking the demographic that I'm marketing to specifically. So that question comes up more than anything else. There's still a lot of like the taboo types of questions, or like what cycle would you recommend for this, and because there's still there's a good amount of bodybuilding, or strength athletes or guys that use PEDs, performance enhancing drugs, and they'll ask questions about that. And my number one response is like, go to a doctor. That's the best. I can read every possible piece of literature and research about different chemicals and different hormones and how they react to the human body. And I'm not a doctor, so the best thing is when you're going to put a chemical in your body, you should probably have a doctor by your side so they know what you're doing.
Definitely.
But I get that question. Again, I talk about it openly. I think
Hmm.
that's why I get the question a lot.
What
I
what
don't,
about what about their hormones are they like worried about? Their testosterone's too low or what?
that's mostly, it's not, people don't just like, oh, I must have low testosterone. They typically they're going to present with some symptoms that are indicative of low testosterone. Like, um, you store body fat easier, or you're just tired, you're lethargic, you don't want to do anything, you don't have any energy. It's not even just libido, right?
Hmm.
Which obviously that's a no brainer, because when someone comes to me and we have a conversation. Let's say you came across my profile, I ended up booking a call with you, and we're going to talk about what your goals are, where you're at, what you've tried, what you're doing right now, why it's not working, and kind of get a pretty in-depth picture of where you're at. And one of the first questions I ask is, when is the last time you got your blood work done? And most often I get, I don't know, it's been years. I don't remember the last time I got it done. Which really opens the door of like, we can fix nutrition pretty easily. We can fix training. I've said this for a really long time. Depending on how far you scroll back through my Instagram, one of the things I've always said for years is it comes down to two things: lift heavy shit and don't eat like an asshole. That's all well and good if your hormones are in a good place. If someone comes to me and they're talking about the symptoms of low testosterone, but they don't really know for sure, that's usually when I'll direct them to a doctor. Or at least help them find someone in their area. Because there's, I've got guys that I work with that are in Canada, right? So it's not like, their medical system's a lot different than ours here. So finding a physician that specializes in that's a little bit of a more challenging task. But it's really, I love being able to sort of open your eyes to that of like, oh, I never really thought about that. Because it's, when you talk to someone who talks about it openly and who's very like just matter of fact about it, it just becomes a normal part of conversation. Like we could sit here and talk about macros, how many carbs you ate today, and or what training split you're following, and it's a pretty easy conversation. But when we start talking about what your hormone levels should be or what an optimal hormone panel would look like, it becomes uncomfortable for some people, but the more we talk about it, the more common it gets. Because as time has gone on, even the last few years, there's less of a negative stigma to it because it's like commonplace, right? Guys are in their 30s, go get your hormones checked. There's people that I know locally, who started going to a doctor for their hormones in their 20s because their hormones, their testosterone was that low.
Oh, wow.
And it's not something you think about, right? You can go through life with low testosterone and feel like absolute dog shit, and never get it treated. But now it's, I don't really think there's much of an excuse that we have at this point of like, just go get your blood work done. What's the worst that you find out? There's nothing wrong. I just did I'm in a contest prep right now. So what I like to do is I'll do a full blood panel. And then I'll do another one in 8 to 12 weeks when my contest prep is done. So I can see what's going on in my body. But it had been, it's, I think it was like $400 to get a full blood panel, which can be expensive, sure.
Yeah.
But I would rather pay that $400 now and have all of the data in front of me than have something come up later. Like I've got an issue with my prostate or, something that I could have uncovered and done something about before it was a problem. So it's not just about low testosterone, right? It can be any number of other issues hormone-wise that if you catch it, you're just healthier. You can make changes and live a healthier life. So that is like I said, the most common question that I get is something to do with hormones.
For sure. What about the most common thing or a mistake that men make that is killing their progress? I'm assuming, like we talked about earlier, like most people just want to be jacked and feel good having their shirt off. So like, what is stopping that progress?
This one gets me fired up, and I actually I rant about this. I yell at clients about this all the time. Somewhere along the lines, we got into this this mindset that we need to change things up all the time, and after 3 or 4 weeks, I'll get messages from clients. I'll be like, well, we're going to change things up. And I will pull up their training log and I'll pull up all their data and I'll show it to them. I'll screenshot it and show it to them. I'll be like, okay, everything that we're doing is, your body fat's trending down, right? your strength is trending up, so you're putting muscle on your body. If they're trying to lose weight, their weight's trending down. Like, why would we change anything? We're doing exactly. And so I think that the number one thing that the guys run into, and it's everybody in the fitness space, but since we're talking about men and we're talking about the group of humans that I have the pleasure of working with, it's just, we have no attention span.
Yeah.
We're just inundated with, well, if I'm just going to do this for 30 days or do this for, 6 weeks or whatever it might be. Like, if you look at my training log, like, I don't change much ever. I do the same stuff over and over and over because it works. I might change the rep ranges that I use or the implement that I use, right? If I'm going to do a bench press, I might use a different bar. I might do it in a Smith machine. I might do it on an incline. But the movement itself, it's, I heard a quote years ago. I'm stealing it. I don't know who said it. And it's, getting really strong. So similarly, you're trying to build muscle, you're trying to change your physique. It comes down to doing the same 15 or 20 exercises for 20 years. It's not exciting. And I think the misnomer is with men, right? It's that we constantly need to be doing new shit, a new movement, or is there a better way to do this? Or there's a reason that I have a coach for bodybuilding. It's because when he sends me my plan, I open it and I execute it. If there's something I don't understand, I'll ask him to clarify after I've looked it up. Right? If there's something that I don't quite know, I'm going to look it up. I'm going to do some research and see if I can answer the question myself. But then I don't question it, and I just execute it. And when he feels it needs to be changed, he'll make a change. That's why I pay him the amount of money that I pay him to do the job. And I actually had a client very recently, and he was one of those, I think he wanted things to be changed more, or he expected things to be changed more. And when I sat him down, I said, we don't need to change it. It's only been, at the time, it had only been 4 weeks. We're going into the fifth. Like, I'm not changing anything. There is all of the data that we've got showing that what we're doing is working. So if it ain't broke,
don't fix it.
Why the hell are we going to fix it? And that's it. It's harsh for some people to hear, I think, because, I could sell a whole bunch more shit. I could probably make a ton more money by selling like quick fix, like 28-day bullshit programs like everybody else does. But at the end of the day, they don't work. So it's, I wish we could get rid of that one, but I think it's going to stick around for a while.
And then is it better? What's better if you're trying to lose weight, to lift heavier weight or to focus mainly on cardio?
Cardio is great for burning calories.
Right.
I'll look at, where did I put it? Oh, my computer's on top of it. I can't pull it out. I wanted to raise my computer up, so my training log is actually under it. And I track everything that I do and everything that I eat. And this is actually probably the number 2 question that I get, right? And the thing that I rant about the most, and it's more off the cuff. Now at this point, we kind of joke about it. Like, people want to lose weight. Well, the easiest way to lose weight is to eat less, right? And you'll get skinny. I haven't met a guy yet that has come to me and said, you know what, man, I just want to be skinny. No, there was one. I had one client back in Pittsburgh that wanted to be skinny. One of my coolest clients. He was a great dude. But one client in 21 plus years wanted to be skinny. So we're talking about, especially as we age, right? Your metabolism is going to slow down a little bit. If your hormones aren't optimized, it's going to be affected even more. Cardio is great for burning some calories. If you go and jump on the Stairmaster for an hour. You're going to burn 500-600 calories. Great. Now, if you're eating 2,000 calories, you burnt off 600. So you're in a deficit of 600 calories. This is all theoretical, right? If you did nothing else throughout the day and you didn't burn any other calories, stuff like that. Now, you can only do so much. You can only take so much away. You can only decrease your food so much. You can only do so much cardio and burn so many calories. But when I talk about building muscle, I talk a lot, talk about cars, right? I don't have it anymore. I really wish I had it this weekend because it would have made the drive to Pennsylvania super fun. But I had a Dodge Challenger with a V8 Hemi in it. Was not fuel efficient, right? I think it had 485 horsepower. Like, it was just the most beautiful sounding car. You knew I was coming before I was even on the block, but not fuel efficient. And why I use that as an analogy when it comes to building muscle is, you know, it's akin to slapping a V8 in your car. They're great engines. They're powerful, but they are going to burn through fuel. So if you think of your body as the V8 and you're adding muscle to it, you're adding horsepower to it, you're going to burn more calories just existing as a human, right? If you and I both weigh 200 pounds, but I carry naturally 20 more pounds of muscle on my body than you do, I'm going to burn more calories sitting here recording this podcast.
Okay.
So also building muscle is fun, right? Getting strong is fun.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Cardio is boring as hell. I can only watch so many like I'm watching, I just finished rewatching The Last Dance for like the 45th time. Because I do cardio in the mornings. But I would rather train because I can eat more food, which I love to eat. My workouts are intense. I feel better. It's one thing to lose body fat, right? If you have, let's say you have, 10, 12% body fat, and then you have 10 or 12% body fat, but you've added 5 or 6 pounds of, lean muscle mass. I hate that word, lean muscle. And I just used it. Lean body mass, I should say. So you've added 10 or 12 pounds of muscle to your body, whatever it might be, it's going to look better. So when we go back to hey, I want to look better naked, or I want to look better at the pool. If you just do tons of cardio and lose lots of weight, and you'll lose some body fat, sure, but muscle looks better. That's also my opinion. People can disagree with me, but that's just my approach to it. I would much rather have a client have the ability to eat more food, have greater workouts, feel better in general. Like, people who there's a direct correlation to overall health and longevity in the amount of skeletal muscle you have. If you take two people that are the same chronological age, and one has more skeletal muscle than the other, they will be healthier. So that's my soapbox about building muscle.
Shit, I get it. Got to build that muscle. So let's talk about Vanguard Barbell. Did you have any doubts or obstacles before launching that?
Are we talking about the gym, or are we talking about my coaching business? Because they're both the same name.
Gotcha. Let's talk about the gym, because I remember you mentioned earlier in the pod that you swore you were never going to open up another gym, and then you did. I guess this is a two-part question. What made you not want to open up that, or be reluctant to opening that second gym? Like, you said you never do it, but then you did.
Well, so the gym that I was part owner of in Pittsburgh, I believe there were 6 partners total, so I had 5 other partners.
Oh wow.
A few years after we opened, I want to say we were in our second full year of operation. Um, my ex-wife, it's my wife at the time, she was offered a job in Charleston, at the Children's Hospital here. She was a physician at the Children's Hospital in Pittsburgh, and it was the third time they had offered her the job in Charleston. And I told her, I said, they're not going to offer it to you a fourth time. And they had made her an offer she couldn't refuse. Um, so we up and moved. And I'm 2 years into owning a gym, and I talked to my partners, and I gotta make this move, and they all agreed. We're going to start a family in Charleston, and this is, the original plan was I was going to go back and forth to Pittsburgh, and one thing led to another. We went through a pretty gnarly divorce. We're good friends now. We're phenomenal friends now, get along great. We have an 8-year-old son. That's another story. But at the time, when we're in the middle of a divorce, I got the first of 2 buyout checks from the majority partner in the gym back in Pittsburgh. Now, I didn't actually agree to a buyout, but
Okay.
I also, at the time, I had no money, right? Like, I was broke. I was living in an apartment. I had moved out of the house. I was living in an apartment. Ends were not meeting, and then a pretty substantial check shows up on my doorstep, which I never cashed because I didn't agree to the terms of the buyout. They were trying to buy out my ownership kind of in an underhanded way. They knew I was going through a divorce, right? Let's give
Mhm.
him this money. Let's get this over with. Never signed it, hired a lawyer. This took years.
Oh wow.
The ironic thing about it is when the case actually settled, I walked away with less money than they originally offered me,
Dang.
because my legal fees were so expensive. But on principle alone, I wasn't gonna lay down.
Yeah.
So that left a pretty bad taste in my mouth about gym ownership, and I just didn't want to deal with it. And I think in the back of my mind, I also was like, I don't really want to do this.
Hmm.
And then lo and behold, here we are. So this is the gym that we're in right now. Has been It was a different gym for several years. It originally opened in 2015. I actually joined it not long after I moved to Charleston, maybe 2016 or something, 2017 is when I
Hmm.
joined the gym here. And I actually tried to buy it during COVID. I had a client at the time that she was a business owner. She was a franchisee. She was a Domino's franchisee, so she knew how to make money. And it was her kind of helped me out with that a little bit, and was like, everybody has a price, right? And the gym is closed, so it's not making money. So it's costing money. So I actually tried to buy it. I had a deal in hand, but I couldn't get a bank to give me money because of COVID, right? So that deal fell through. And a few years later, it'll be 3 years ago this year, the manager at the gym here reached out to me and said, "Hey, the owner's looking to sell." She came to me with it, and I don't even remember asking for a price. I think I just said, "Get me a contract." For whatever reason,
Hmm.
she felt at that time, with the way that the gym was, and the community here, and the way that the members were, and how I had been here for so long too, and what this place meant to me. She truly felt that I was going to be the best person to take it over. So I did it without even thinking about it. And it wasn't. I try to be decent to everybody I come across, even people that I don't
Hmm.
like. There was a guy that I had known for a few years, and I never really liked him, but I didn't dislike. He wasn't a friend. He wasn't an enemy. It was just he was a human that we shared space with.
Yeah.
Um, you know, this individual wanted to buy the gym, but they sold it to me instead. And like, I think that's created some animosity there. And then I actually had, uh, I had a, this is for a different podcast altogether. Um, I had an incident, several incidents with a female, that, I had dated for a very short period of time. Um, Decided to try to publicly ruin me,
Oh wow.
because of the way that our relationship fell apart. I cheated on her. Um, wasn't the first time a man has done it. Wasn't the last time. Doesn't mean it was
Yeah.
right. But the reaction, there was a public sort of outcry of, what a horrible type of human I was. And I never reacted to it.
You kind
Again,
of just let it fizzle out.
I mean, it's one of those things I wanted to. I was actually on a ski trip. Um, my ex-wife and I take our son skiing in right around early February, and it was the first year we had taken him. This all happens, while we're at the airport. This all starts to come out, and it's, I hadn't bought the gym yet.
Oh damn.
Right? Like, I hadn't signed the paperwork. I was signing the paperwork on February 22nd. It's February 17th. So I'm 5 days away from buying the gym, and there's emails, going to my investors about how horrible of a person I am. Like, they're trying to, like, this gym almost didn't. I've never told this story publicly. It just, there was never really a platform, but you asked the question, so I'll answer it honestly. You asked if, about struggles, or did I
Obstacles.
have doubts?
Yep.
This gym almost didn't happen. There were a lot of forces that tried to take it out of my hands. And I'm not going to sit here and say that my own personal actions didn't lead to this, right? I think we live in a culture where some people like to cry victim when things don't go their way. I behaved in a certain manner that's not acceptable. However, I don't think that merits, trying to ruin someone publicly, and spreading lies about them. You have a little bit of truth about things that I did, and then these grandiose lies about the type of person that I was. And people who
Mm-hmm.
truly know who I am, I didn't have to explain it to them. They knew. But there's still, even, we're going on 3 years later, there's still some remnants of that.
Oh wow.
Every once in a while, like, I'll get a weird look here and there. And, it really bothered me at the beginning. But it was, at the time, and I didn't understand, I didn't really understand it at the time as it was happening. But the woman who was managing the gym, and she was sort of leading the transition, right? So she had told the owner, "I'm going to sell the gym, but you don't get to ask who I'm selling it to," and this and that and the other thing, because she knew she was going to sell it to me, and it was going to make some waves. But I was losing my mind. I'm in upstate New York, trying to have a good time. I was glued to my phone that whole weekend because I'm trying to put out fires back here in South Carolina. And I'm thankful for her, because I think I called her more than anybody else, and she's just trying to make sure that I was able to get the gym and get things going. And I don't know if she realized at the time, like, how crazy things were going to get. But I was pretty much to my knees. It was, yes, I felt bad about what I had done. And it wasn't right. Like, no one deserves that, right? Like, no male or female deserves to get cheated on. It's
Right.
not, I'm not proud of that. But I did it. I own that.
Yeah.
So, that was one of those, it was a very, and then the
Turbulent
funny,
time.
like, it was very turbulent, and then
Yeah.
the day I signed the contract on the 22nd of February, and the gym was mine. And my first act as a gym owner is the one and only person I've ever kicked out of the gym. It was because I did not want a gym that
Oh, you
had
kicked her out the gym?
no. So I had a member. So one of my clients at the time was a female powerlifter,
Oh,
and
gotcha.
her what I didn't know, her boyfriend at the time also joined the gym, but there was some issues in their personal relationship that I don't agree with. Um, there's just certain things that you don't do in relationships,
Right.
and ways that you treat a partner, whether it's a male to a female or a female to a male.
Right.
And I knew about it. And my whole thing about this gym is I don't want anyone to be made to feel uncomfortable by anyone, right? So
Mm,
if there's a man that makes a woman feel uncomfortable because of the way he's talking to her or the way he's interacting with her, or vice versa, or a male making a male feel uncomfortable by the way they're talking to them, like approaching them in their space kind of deal, I just won't
right.
have it. Like I just can't stand that shit. Um, so my first act as a gym owner was kicking this guy out of the gym. Um, I had tears in my eyes when I did it.
Mm,
The ink hadn't even dried on this contract. Everything that I had gone through um, to pull this gym off, like everything I had, it was so many times in such a short period of time that I thought I
mm,
was going to lose this gym. And here I am. I finally did it. It's all signed. It's mine.
mm.
Um, and the first thing I have to do is kick somebody out. I was like, you've got to be fucking kidding me.
Yeah. But so where do you draw the line between personal and business though, in terms of having to kick somebody out the gym?
What do you mean by that?
You know how people say, personal is personal and business is business, right? So if you know something about someone else's personal life which influenced your decision to, I guess, keep their membership going or whatnot, which is essentially business, where do you, I guess, draw the line?
Well, I got drawn into this. This was a ethical and emotional abuse kind of thing.
Oh,
So now I wouldn't have known about it. Something had come up, and my name was brought into it. I was used as like some fake text messages were created. Like this
mm,
person had texted me about the other person. And I'm like, you never texted me. You don't even have my number, right? I don't
yeah,
like, here's the receipts. I don't delete text messages, right?
right,
For I just like to look back at stuff if I ever have to. And it's one of those things like someone involved me in the lie.
right,
And that was, I didn't know it was an abusive relationship before I was involved in the lie. Had I not been involved in the lie, I most likely never would have known. So I
yeah,
wouldn't have had any reason to kick anyone out of the gym because
right,
I don't know what's going on outside of the walls. Um, but to dig into that question a little bit more, if it's something that, if I have a member that comes to me and that it's, this person is making me feel this type of way. I'm a firm believer of I'll just confront the person. I will just talk to the person, hey,
yeah,
and get to the bottom of it. When it comes to what people do in their lives outside of the gym, it's not my business. When I'm involved in the business, when I know about it, um, if there's, when it comes to abuse, right? Whether it's emotional, physical, it's child abuse, sexual abuse, whatever, like any sort of abuse situation, that's like, you have to step up.
mm,
Because especially when it comes to like a domestic violence type of situation, quite often like a victim of domestic violence, they're not on their own. 9 times out of 10, they're not going to leave. They're not going to go. They're not going to seek help.
mm,
So I just had this conversation the other day too. Um, I was in a cigar bar in my hometown, and we were talking. Um, I apologize. I'm getting a little nasally here. I don't know why.
no
Um,
problem.
we were talking to the owner of the cigar shop, and he was a retired police officer, and he had worked so many domestic cases in his career, and then he retires, and lo and behold, his daughter's first husband um, was abusing her, was physically abusing her. And, you know, we were talking about how, in domestic violence situations, there's two ways out. You either leave or you end up very seriously injured or dead. So when someone's in that situation, as being a good citizen, just caring about other humans, you do what you can to help them out of that situation. If I'm fortunate that I have not come across that very many times in my life, because the person that, when you have to confront something like that, a different person comes out, right? It's one of those, you're trying to protect a human. It's one thing to get in an argument with somebody about politics, right? Mm-hmm. It's another if someone is physically abusing someone else, and you're trying to get them out of that situation or get them resources to help get them out. So, to answer your question, how far into the personal and professional, if I know about it and I don't do something to try to help, I can't sleep at night. Because I'm going to go home to my bed and be safe and sound and snug as a bug. And if I know somebody may be getting physically or sexually abused and I didn't do anything to try to help, I'm not going to be able to live with myself with that one. So, when it comes to situations like that, it's one thing if you've got some people just have shitty relationships, right? And that's fine. That's your choice. But when there's a situation like that, when I know that there's a domestic violence situation and I can do something, now I have no idea what came of the two of them. I don't have contact with either one of them. And I can only hope that part of me sort of literally kind of pushing them apart, at least in a public sense here. I can only hope that helped to create enough space and clarity with one of the humans there that they're like, okay, I need to be out of this. Because if I hadn't spoken up, they didn't actually want me to do anything. They would have been fine with it. They would have kind of coalesced to that situation. I was like, I just can't stand for that. I'm not going to have you come to this gym and be uncomfortable because somebody is here that's treating you like shit, and abusive to you. So that took a turn I wasn't thinking of today.
Yeah, no, most definitely me either. Me and you both. But sure, what's one piece of advice you would like to add to anybody listening to help them reclaim their health, whether they're trying to start working out, get in better shape, which is one tidbit?
And I say this quite often. It's as men, we're very good at, I think I touched on this a little bit earlier, but we're really good at taking care of everyone and everything else. Which is, it's a great quality, right?
Right.
Whether it's, building a business, providing for a family, taking care of loved ones, whether it's, spouse, kids, parents, grandparents, taking care of things that need taken care of. But there's only so much pie to go around.
Yeah.
And what most men do, and it's not just specific to men. The only reason I speak of it this way is because it's the majority of the humans that I've worked with. So, there's not much left over for themselves. And the piece of advice that I give is to carve out time to give back to yourself. The analogy that I use is you can only pour so much from a bucket before having to fill it up. But what most men don't realize is there's a hole in the bucket. You have to fix the hole in the bucket first. The hole in the bucket is that we don't take care of ourselves. We're going to keep giving and giving and giving and taking care of everything that needs to be taken care of. But the hole gets bigger. So it's harder and harder and harder to take care of those things. So my advice is to patch the hole in the bucket. So spend some time working on that vessel, right? It's not just a physical thing of looking better. It's just being better prepared to handle life. I use one of my clients he's a pretty big, he does some large scale construction in Canada. And as he's been with me, he's lost, I think we're upwards of like 35 pounds or something like that. Mm-hmm. And he's put on a good amount of muscle on the way. And people will treat him differently now because of, how he walks into the room. He just walks differently. He's a little bit taller. He's more confident. He carries himself just in a different way than when he had more body fat and less muscle. So, when you fix the vessel, yes, you look better, but it starts to affect a lot of other areas in your life, and you're able to provide at a higher level. So while some people think it's selfish to take the time, it's selfish. I want to take time and be at the gym and, I'm away from my family and stuff. It's like, it's cumulative though. If you take 45 minutes, 3 or 4 days a week and you work on yourself, you're adding time back later. And it's okay to do it. And when you feel better and you're healthier and you have more energy, you're going to be able to be better for your family and your friends in your business, or your employees, whatever it might be, customers. So it's really the biggest piece of advice that I can ever give, male or female. It's not just dependent on whether you're male or female. It's really like, if you take care of yourself first and foremost, it is not selfish.
Agreed. I agree with that. Well, appreciate you for hopping on with me today, and you've been such a great conversation. Where could the people find you at?
So I have a couple Instagrams. My coaching page is at Vanguard Barbell _coaching. Mm-hmm. And then my gym, the actual brick and mortar space that we're in right now, is at Vanguard Barbell. And then my actual podcast page, I have way too many Instagrams. I need to do something about that. My podcast pages, which is where I'll put this, and hopefully, like if you send me some clips and stuff like that, I'll load them up there and share them there. But that is at Andrew Stephen Rose, which is the name of my podcast. So
for sure, we're gonna put all the links in the description, put it on the
beautiful.
Screen, and do whatever. I hope everybody learned something. I hope you're inspired to be great. Till next time on Beyond Ordinary. Peace.